Chris Kelsey here with
Matt Howell.
And on this episode of The First Run, Matt and I are going to discuss Sicario, Day of the Soldado, the sequel to Sicario you didn't know you needed. And maybe you didn't need it. We're also going to discuss the revenge film, Revenge. Now, Matt's not a big fan of this genre of film, which is when the young lady is attacked and then takes out her vengeance on her attackers. But this one's got a twist. And then also we're going to tell you, since we're halfway through the year, we're going to say what the 5 best films of 2018 are so far. So it's a lot to get into, Matt. So let's start everything in a clip with Sicario, Soldado. Day of the Soldado. Not just Soldado. Sicario, Day of the Soldado. It's very important.
No rules this time. Turning you loose.
How loose?
Carlos Reyes. How's that for loose? It's your chance to get even for your family. When are you gonna help us start a war?
With who?
Everyone.
Man, who doesn't love some badass Josh Brolin, huh?
Mm-hmm. Is there really any other type of Josh Brolin?
With everyone. So Sicario, Day of the Soldado is not a true sequel, right, to the first film. It's more of a... So I guess this is, they're considering this an anthology series with these same actors. Well, specifically Benicio del Toro and Josh Brolin. So this time, Matt, we find ourselves with a U.S. government. So terrorists have used the coyotes, which, if you're not familiar, are typically cartel members or Mexican gangsters who are paid funds to ferry immigrants over the border to the United States. So what happens is terrorists pay off the cartels to smuggle them into the United States. And this is just what this is what the U.S. has been waiting for, Matt, so they can go after the cartels. Now we don't need Kate Macer this time, Matt, because this is now an actual kind of homeland security thing, right? So now all we have to do is get the band back together for the most part. Kind of like the Eagles when they tell Don Felder not to bother coming back. It's very similar to that. Or Led Zeppelin when they did the Robert Plant, Jimmy Page, and they said, you know what, John Paul Jones, we don't need you for this unleaded thing. This is exactly kind of like that, but not at all. And Josh Brolin re-enlists the Sicario himself, Benicio del Toro. And what they're going to do, Matt, is they're going to go ahead and kidnap the daughter of one of the cartel leaders, make it look like the other cartel did it, starting a war between the two cartels. So hopefully they'll decimate themselves, and then peace will just engulf Mexico.
Is that how peace works? It engulfs things?
Typically, yes. It's like a virus.
Okay. I see. Got it.
Or a storm.
Of course.
That's exactly how it works.
A storm of peace.
No, obviously everything goes awry, and Benicio del Toro now is tasked with getting this girl back across the border. And, of course, as you know, the U.S. government isn't keen on that stuff. So what they decide to do is say, you know what? We got to take out all the witnesses. This hasn't worked out. Things have gone to heck, or foobar, as they say. Mm-hmm. And we're just going to wipe everybody out. And so now it's Del Toro trying to get across the border, Brolin trying to do what he does. And you have your film, written by Taylor Sheridan, who also wrote the original Sicario. This time, we do not have Denis Villeneuve. We do not have Roger Deakins. Two, I think, of the key ingredients of the first film and how and why it was as successful as it was. But Matt, for me, the key ingredient also is Emily Blunt's Kate Macer. So this film is fine. There are, I thought, some truly kind of thrilling moments in it that I felt mostly kind of replicated the tension and the success of the first film, but they still felt like they had been run through the copier a few too many times, right? They're lesser kind of set pieces than the first film. They try right out of the gate to build the tension, and I think one thing they do is they ratchet up the violence a little bit more than they did the original film, maybe to make up for some lacking elements in the story itself. I felt at times the script was a little too forced, particularly that scene we just played. It seemed kind of like a redux of something from Sicario that wasn't as well delivered or as interesting, to be perfectly honest with you. But losing Kate Macer is the problem. She's the moral center of Sicario. And without that contrast, right? Without that key conflict of the first film, this then just kind of becomes a tepid CIA action movie that almost teeters on being offensive. And I think what's interesting too about Sicario is that you can make an argument for both sides, right? I think you can make, depending on how you look at that film, Kate Macer may be correct, Brolin's character may be correct. It was a lot more ambiguous than I think this thing was. What generally were your thoughts on Day of the Soldado?
Well, shock of all shocks, I think generally I agree with you. If you had taken this thing in a vacuum, I think it's a passable, uninspired, but relatively entertaining action film. You know, but the problem, as you said, is that it's compared to Sicario, which is a fantastic film. Not just because of Villeneuve and what he brings to it, but just the way the whole thing is structured out. Just as you said, what makes that film so successful is the ambiguity of it. You know, the kind of powerlessness of the hero in Kate Macer to do anything about it kind of turns that whole kind of action film story beat cliche where you think this thing is going to go on its head. And she's completely powerless to do anything against the government. And Brolin and especially Del Toro are just kind of like these ghosts that kind of drift into her orbit, use her for what they need her to, and then they just kind of go off and they discard her when they're done. And it's kind of an interesting, powerful thing to see kind of turned on its head.
Right.
But all that being said, I mean, there's no way Kate Macer could have come back in this film. That would have made absolutely zero sense at all. I don't understand why she. Well, I don't see how she would. It seemed like her arc was basically done.
Well, then does that then beg the question, which I think technically is an incorrect use of that term? Why make the sequel? Are you with me where you think that conflict was so integral to the film that maybe it negates the need for a second film?
Oh yeah, we didn't need a second film at all. I mean, but I think we saw that. We said that from day one. We said that this is completely pointless. And I think removing that from the film, you know, obviously this made, like you said, like we said, it's just a standard action film that's got some good beats in it. It's got some good stuff in it, but it's nothing revolutionary like the first one seemed to be. But you know, at the same time, if you're going to make a sequel, I don't see how you put Emily Blunt's character in it based off of what happened in the first one, because it would have been completely pointless. And to be quite honest with you, the characterization that we got, especially of Del Toro's character, this is a guy, spoiler alert, guys, who at the end of Sicario kills two like 12 to 10-year-old boys, but he has a problem killing the 16-year-old daughter of his sworn enemy who had his whole family killed. It seems like it's such a 180 from his character that, you know,
but because I didn't buy it. She's the Emily Blunt character again, where she reminds him of his daughter. That's why and again, I think this is a way that Sheridan tries to replicate Del Toro's obligation, right? Because first he kind of has this in the first film with Sicario, he does take a liking to Kate, and he tells you remind me of my daughter. So I think that's the driving force in this film. If you take that relationship out and that connection with the cartel leader's daughter, then there's no, you know, you lose a half hour of this film. There's no third act. It's that connection that drives that, and also drives Brolin's ultimate decision at the end of the film as well.
Now, I understand from a point of that's what drives the action, but based off of everything we've known about these characters from the first movie and into most of this movie, I didn't buy it. I personally didn't buy that either one of them would hesitate, especially Del Toro's character. Yeah. I don't know. I guess just, I don't know. I guess if you have some guy who kills an entire family at dinner in front of the father before killing him, you would think that, you know, to go after the biggest bad. He had no problem with kidnapping him. He had no problem doing any of this other stuff. And I don't know. I don't get it.
That kind of bothered me. That had a Burn Notice feel to it too, which of course this film features Jeffrey Donovan, who's one of them. I love Donovan. I don't know what it is. I just always enjoyed him. Touching Evil, that short-lived series on USA, then Burn Notice. And that was the thing Burn Notice ran into, right? Where every season it wasn't actually that guy that he got that actually burned him. It was the next guy. And oh, we finally got him. Well, next season, oh, actually it was this guy. Right. So I felt that arc had kind of ended in Sicario because he killed the guy who killed his family. But now it's, well, he's the guy that ordered the other guy to do it. And we're just going to keep going down this never-ending staircase of people who ended up being, well, actually, no, it was this guy. You know, so not that that's going to happen in this series because supposedly there's a third one in the works.
Brolin versus Del Toro, is that what this is going to be? I don't know, man.
And so this film also features a parallel storyline that I think Villeneuve handles exceptionally well in the first film, where there's the Mexican cop, right? And we kind of follow him. We don't really know how he's going to fit into the film. And then he ends up playing an integral role for Del Toro's character to do what he needs to do. This time we're introduced to a young man who gets sucked into the drug cartel life. He's a coyote, but he's also going to be a mule, I guess, perhaps. And Del Toro, at the film ends basically, and I'm just gonna spoil it because I don't think it's that big a deal. He ends up basically trying to recruit this kid. So he starts off as kind of unsure, and then he gets sucked into the cartel life. He's the one that is able to point out Del Toro when he's trying to sneak across the border and use the coyotes to get the girl across the border. And this guy identifies him as who he really is. And later on, he shows up at the end of the film. We jump ahead, 1 year, 2 years later? And he's all tatted up. He's fully a member of the gang now. And Del Toro says to him, so you want to be a Sicario? And that's basically how the film ends, right?
Right.
Again, I felt like, this is just, we're trying to replicate something that was really interesting from the first film. And again, it just felt like another carbon copy of something. And it just didn't have the same impact. In fact, at the end of that, when that scene ended, I actually kind of rolled my eyes. I'm like, all right.
Here we go.
What did you think of that little subplot?
I don't know where they're going with that. I mean, what is he going to do? Like, again, is he going after Brolin? Is that what this is? Or is he going to try and use him to go after the cartels more, like a guy from the inside kind of thing?
My assumption is he's on his own now and he's going after the cartels. I don't think that he's after... I think the conflict with Brolin, he understands. Because when they have that conversation with him, I think Del Toro knows he's on his own.
Right.
So, and then Brolin, we don't want to ruin the whole film for you. Any final thoughts on Sicario, Day of the Soldado? Anything else you wanted to bring up?
No, not really. I mean, it's a competent action film. It's nothing special. If you miss it, you miss it. I don't know. I'd give this a C+. That's
exactly what I had as well. Man, are we ever going to agree on anything? So it's just a copy. It's a carbon copy, but not as well done of the original film. I watch Sicario, Matt, probably 2-3 times a year. I really love that thing. In fact, I watched it again in anticipation of watching the new film, and it's okay. It's fine. It's fine. Nothing that special, unfortunately.
I know.
Hopefully, maybe, and supposedly Stefano Sollima, who's the director, he's directed some of the, from what I understand, the Gomorrah shows, or I think it's on Showtime, which is an adaptation of the Italian gangster film, which if you haven't seen, is fantastic.
Okay.
So you should definitely check that out. But he said he's not going to come back for the third film. I don't know really if there's going to be a third film. Would you be interested in seeing one?
No, not really, but if this thing makes enough money, that's all it really needs, if everybody else is game.
The first week, it did better than expected. I think they were looking at, well, I can't remember what were they looking at for Sicario. I think they're looking at 12 and ended up being like 18, or maybe it was like 9 and it got 12. All I know is it did better than I really expected it to. Now, this weekend, of course, it's getting crushed because Ant-Man and the Wasp came out.
Right.
But it's still, it's at 35 right now, which isn't terrible. You know, it's doing reasonably. It did 19. Yeah, it did 19 its opening weekend.
Okay.
But all right, if you had a chance to see Sicario: Day of the Soldado, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun. Please let us know. Matt, let's go ahead and hear a little clip from, I think, the relatively big release that's coming up next week. Take a listen.
No. He's looking for heat. Let me give him the deuce.
Oh, no, he's shaking off the sides. Big mistake.
This son of a bitch has thrown a 2-hit shutout. He's shaking me off. You believe that? Charlie, here comes the deuce. And when you speak of me, speak well. No, serve it up.
On front. Give me foul.
Ball.
I told him I was going to throw a deuce, right?
Yep. Man, that ball got out of here in a hurry. You know, anything travels that far, ought to have a damn stewardess on it, don't you think?
The term is flight attendant, Kevin Costner. Flight attendant.
It was a long time ago.
So that, of course, is from Bull Durham. Criterion is giving us a new 4K restoration of the film. Includes a new conversation as well between the director and then film critic Michael Sarago. And it has a bunch of archive stuff ported over, including some audio commentaries featuring Kevin Costner and Tim Robbins. But I've always been a big fan of Bull Durham, and it's being released by Criterion. And right now, Matt, Criterion, Barnes & Noble, 50% off sale right now.
Oh,
so
it's
stuff you've been
favorite time of year.
That's right. If there's stuff you've been waiting to get twice a year, it happens. Right now, we're in the mid-year point. I ordered Night of the Living Dead. The Criterion edition is supposed to be fantastic. And I've already purchased Being There, the Peter Sellers film. So I got a couple other things I'm thinking about getting. We'll see.
Are you going to actually watch these?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I will. Well, I've seen Night of the Living Dead. I haven't seen Being There, but it is. I've always read fantastic things about it, so I thought I'd pick that one up. Mm-hmm. And then what was the other thing I ordered? I can't remember now. It shows you how important it was to me. Oh, of course. Cat People, the Val Lewton film.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I want to check that one out. Coming up in Blu-ray and DVD then July 10th, along with Bull Durham, A Quiet Place, John Krasinski's directorial debut. A favorite film of Matt's that may show up later on. I'm not sure, but we will see.
Can I just stop you for a second? I like how Bull Durham, a 30-year-old movie, is the big release versus A Quiet Place, one of the biggest hits of the year.
Well, Matt, why don't you think a moment? If I'm pulling audio clips to listen to...
Yeah, I understand that, but I wouldn't have called it the big release.
I'm just trying to generate some buzz. Come on.
For Kevin Costner?
Yes. The guy's...
Tim Robbins?
I'm thinking he'll have a career one day. A film we both saw, but we haven't discussed on the show. Maybe we want to spend a minute or two talking about it right now. Chappaquiddick is being released as well on Blu-ray. I saw it as part of the Gasparilla Film Festival. You saw it independently. General thoughts about Chappaquiddick?
Yeah, it's kind of like your run-of-the-mill biopic. I really didn't know that much of the story of Ted Kennedy. I knew he was in some kind of drunken car crash and he ended up killing someone. But I didn't know all the cover-up and the kind of his vacillating. And I can't believe that even after all that, he had such a long and distinguished career in the Senate after that. That was amazing to me.
Politics was a very different time back then. That's for sure.
Yeah, I know.
But I enjoyed Chappaquiddick as much as it can be enjoyed. It was, I don't know. I remember walking out of that one being a little underwhelmed by it. It was an interesting story for sure, and I think that what's my name? What's my guy? My internet's not responding quickly enough. Jason Clarke, I think, does a fine job of portraying Ted Kennedy and how just troubled and imperfect a man he was. right? So I think Jim Gaffigan and Ed Helms, two of his friends. I don't know. It's really it's an interesting film to watch. Just if you're a Kennedy fan, it's not going to do you any favors.
It is certainly not. Yes, Joe Kennedy is just going to just show that he was a terrible human being from all accounts, and this continues.
There you go. Well, supposedly he bought his son the presidency. So, Lean on Pete is being released. Supposedly one of the best films of the year. I haven't had a chance to see this one yet. I don't think you have either.
No, I have not.
Definitely try and catch up with it. Stars Chloe Sevigny, Travis Fimmel, Steve Zahn, and Steve Buscemi. It follows a 15-year-old Charlie Thompson. He wants a home, Matt, food on the table, and a high school he can attend for more than part of the year. As a son of a single father working in warehouses across the Pacific Northwest, stability is hard to find. Hoping for a new start, they move to Portland, that's in Oregon, where Charlie takes a summer job with a washed-up horse trainer and befriends a failing racehorse named Lean on Pete. I don't know how to read.
Yeah, seriously.
The next film coming up, we're going to talk about, I went back and forth on this, and I think it's an absolutely horrible idea, and we'd never have the time for it, but it might be fun if I ever finish this great, or even start this great unwatched plan. In fact, I did it, and then the file got corrupted, Matt, and I have to re-record it.
You've been talking about this for like 3 years.
It drives me crazy. But the next thing would be a Nick Cage marathon, where we watch everything. Nick Cage has
everything?
done. Well, I think focusing maybe on the past 10 years. When
So
he's done.
no vampire, no Gone with 60 Seconds.
No, I mean I want to like focus on the I
Like
owe
really
money to the
terrible
IRS
stuff?
stage. Nick Cage. Because he churns out about 4 or 5 of these B movies a year at this point.
Yeah, is he in some kind of horror movie coming up? Some kind of revenge flick? Something. I saw some.
I sent you the
preview.
trailer for that Mandy film, which we're going to have to do for the show.
Yes.
Oh
that
yeah,
was it. Thank
the
you,
film's
yes.
getting quite the buzz. Watch that
Is
trailer,
it?
folks.
You know what? I love this idea. I love this way better than I like French New Wave or musicals. So if we're gonna do another marathon, I'm all on board.
We'd have to commit to like another 200 episodes, which I'm not really prepared to do. And you
It can't
still
be
have
that
to.
many.
The next marathon I want to do is you're supposed to curate, which is that 60s martial arts thing.
Oh yeah,
Right?
okay. I'll get on that. I'm gonna get on that. I'm
All
gonna do it.
So anyway, 211 or 211 or 211 is the next Nick Cage movie. It's a bank heist movie in the vein of End of Watch meets Black Hawk Down, which I can't begin to figure out what that's like. But that's the next Nick Cage movie. Also coming out from Criterion is Dragon Inn. The art of martial arts filmmaking took a leap into bold new territory, Matt, with this action-packed tale of the Ming Dynasty. After having the Emperor's Minister of Defense executed, a power-grabbing eunuch sends assassins to trail the victims' children to a remote point on the northern Chinese border. But that bloodthirsty mission is confounded by a mysterious group of fighters who arrive on the scene intent on delivering justice and defending the innocent. It's the first film by King Hu made after moving to Taiwan from Hong Kong in search of more creative freedom. Dragon Inn combines rhythmic editing, meticulous choreography, and gorgeous widescreen compositions with a refinement that was new to the Wuxia, W-U-X-I-A. Genre.
Sure.
Unfamiliar. Pardon my ignorance. Its blockbuster success breathed new life into a classic formula and established Hu as one of the Chinese cinema's most audacious innovators. Includes a new 4K restoration supervised by the cinematographer, new interview with the actor Shang Kun Ling Fung, and a bunch of other stuff. Man, this thing sounds fascinating and something I'd like to check out. And that's Dragon Inn. Go ahead, yeah?
I think Wuxia, or however you pronounce it, I think it's like that kind of Hong Kong martial arts movies, like Crouching Tiger kind of thing, with the wire work and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. But historical kind of stuff. It's not, Hong Kong gangsters. It's more like, Qing Dynasty kind of stuff.
Gotcha. One Good Cop is being released as well on Blu-ray for the first time. This is where Michael Keaton becomes the legal guardian of the 3 orphan girls when his partner is killed in a drug raid. I remember going to see this. Like, I love Michael Keaton. It's going to be like a crime thriller, and it's really not at all. It's like a family drama. But I still remember it being pretty good. Freebirds, speaking of Nick Cage, with Tommy Lee Jones and Sean Young. Remember the helicopter movie with Nick Cage, Freebirds?
No, I don't.
Well, that's coming up on Blu-ray, as well as the film Casual Sex starring Leah Thompson and Victoria Jackson. But Matt, the big release is straight to DVD this week. It's Scarecrows of the... What's my favorite? What's one of the best horror genres? When you mix a monster in with what?
I don't know. I'm drawing a blank here.
Scarecrows of the Third Reich.
Oh, Nazis. God, I should have known that. Sorry.
At the end of World War II, Hitler ordered Operation Scarecrow to a small SS outpost in the Seelow Heights of Germany. Nobody knew the existence of this clandestine operation until 70 years later when FBI agent John Fox runs across a vigilante known as the Red Wolf. After killing the Red Wolf, Agent Fox learned the shocking secret of Operation Scarecrow. Fox then travels to Germany and meets Pastor Gabriel, who unites Fox with a group of outlaws stuck on an SS outpost fighting the remnant scarecrows of the Third Reich. Only they can save the world from this new evil that, if undefeated, could bring about a Fourth Reich. I'm assuming fire will take care of it?
You think so?
That's my assumption. What should we be streaming this week?
So available exclusively on Hulu is I, Tonya, biopics starring Margot Robbie as the embattled skater Tanya Harding. Won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress. I think a performance that we believe, maybe not deserved. It was a big, flashy performance, but
it's a good performance.
It is,
but it's like you said, it's flashy.
That's right. But it's a funny film. It is her bodyguard, whoever that guy is. I forgot his name. I'm sorry, dude, but he was a delight. Galooly, yes, the guy who plays Galooly is hilarious. You got Sebastian Stan as well, who's pretty funny.
Oh no, he was Galooly. Sebastian Stan was Galooly. The bodyguard, I can't remember the guy's name, right? Okay.
Yeah, but he was fantastic. And if you haven't checked it out, watch it. It's pretty fun.
No, that is a good one. Yeah, Margot Robbie's fantastic in that as well. All right, Matt. It's gonna be fun-ish.
Fun-ish, right.
All right, put the kids to bed, folks. We are now going to talk about the sexual assault and attempted murder / revenge film, Revenge. Here's the clip, I guess. Yeah.
I'm sorry. What were you expecting? A thank you?
Leave me alone.
I already made that mistake. Addicts cannot be trusted to be by themselves.
Not an addict.
You are the very definition! Ems, I have been here since the beginning, but you shut me out? Just like you're shutting me out now. Why? Because you're ashamed or in denial? Either way, Em, you're scaring the hell out of me. Maybe it's time for an intervention to force you to be who you really are. What if I went out there and told everybody that Amanda Clark is alive and well?
And everyone she loved is dead. The Graysons killed them all. They left me nothing to go back to, Nolan. This is all I have left.
That's why you can't let go of Emily Thorne. Ems.
So, of course, that's a clip from the TV show Revenge, starring Emily Van Camp. Ran for 4 seasons, I believe. Was it on ABC? Maybe NBC. Who knows?
Good switcheroo. I was
ABC.
Like, what the hell is this? As this clip started to play, but thank you.
I couldn't find anything. All the clips and everything was there was no dialogue. It was just people chasing her and then her killing and beating people up. That's basically all there was online. So, I thought, let's use a clip from the show Revenge.
Very good.
89 episodes, 4 seasons. Soap opera at its finest.
Of course.
And Emily Van Camp plays, was it Sharon Carter? Yeah, she plays Sharon Carter in the MCU. So.
Oh, okay. Very nice.
Matt, I love doing this to you. Why don't you tell the folks at home, what's Revenge all about?
Sure. So lovely American socialite Jen is in a secret relationship with French millionaire Richard. And they go off on a tryst together, in his secluded house in the middle of nowhere. He's supposed to go on a hunting trip with some friends of his, Dimitri and Stan, and he plans on her being gone before they show up, but they show up early. And after a night of partying, one of the three, they sexually assault Jen. I believe it's Dimitri assaults Jen. Is it Stan? I'm sorry. Stan assaults Jen, and basically her boyfriend tries to get her to keep quiet, pay her hush money, and when she won't do it, he tricks her to go out to the edge of a cliff, and he pushes her over, and she supposedly dies, but she does not die, even though every evidence to the contrary says that she should have died, but she doesn't. She becomes an avenging spirit of vengeance and hunts the three men down. Dun dun dun. Bloody mayhem ensues.
So Matt, you were initially against this,
right?
And what is your apprehension with this particular genre of film, if I may?
Usually it's because the sexual assault scenes are usually pretty graphic and they're usually pretty interminable. You know, the I Spit on Your Grave, the original, is pretty brutal watch just through the whole thing. I didn't see the remake. Last House on the Left is kind of is the same way. Yet I didn't see the remake. So I've seen a few of this in this genre, and it's just really not something that is not a really feel-good, rousing film for me. It's not even really that fun, so most of the time.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. A lot of those films, it's just about suffering.
Right.
And even in the assault, the women are objectified.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that having this written and directed by a woman, Coralie Farge, she brings a new spin to that, right? It's, and I think the key to, so that's what I kept hearing about this, is that this is the feminist version of the female revenge film. Mm-hmm. As I'm watching this thing, and as she portrays Matilda Lutz as a sexual object for the beginning of the film, I'm getting a little concerned that maybe this praise isn't really warranted for this. But as things start to change and as the film progresses, first off, the sexual assault itself happens off camera. There is an initial violation of Matilda, of Jen, but it's not exceptionally graphic, and the rape, if you will, happens off camera. And what happens, what she goes on to portray then, is basically the survival of Jen, and then her hunting of these men. But she's not a superwoman, right? Well, there are moments when she does seem to portray some unusual superpowers, perhaps,
right,
or at least healing abilities that I think are not really possible.
Yeah, I don't think how that really works. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff in that abdomen region that could get pierced. But anyway, I digress. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I think the key though for me is that even as in the other films in this genre too, when the women exact their revenge, they're still treated as objects of desire. Not so much here. There are a few shots that could potentially be interpreted as exploitive, but not many. Most of the shots of Matilda as Jen are not. There aren't a lot of close-ups of her, particularly in it's weird because the way to I don't want to talk about this in a way that sounds I don't know what the word would be. Pervy is the first thing that jumps in my head, but I want to be a little more intellectual about it.
Sure.
But the way she portrays Jen initially, right? She's in her underwear in the assault. She's dancing in her bikini, all that kind of stuff. But then after the evolution of her character, we don't really get a lot of that anymore. There are some scenes where she's scantily clad, but she's covered in blood and dirt. And,
right.
And she's not... The way she's shot, it's not... There's no panning shots of her, accentuating her body and other stuff like you do see in your I Spit on Your Graves or in the remakes of those films as well. They're not. I didn't feel that they were exploitive shots after the evolution of her character hits. And I think the key to this is when the final confrontation with Richard, right? Because he's the one that's naked and vulnerable throughout that confrontation, not her.
Mm-hmm.
And I think is the key, right? And I don't know. I thought this thing was a rousing success. I think the use of color, there's lots of oranges. I guess this is supposed to be set in Morocco. But the use of color, I think, really brings a vibrancy to the film that helps, in a weird way, magnify the dread for me as the film progresses because everything is so what's the word I'm looking for? It's so highlighted. It's increased. Everything is bright.
It's saturated.
It's saturated. Thank you. That's the term I'm looking for. And I got to admit, if this is the future of the genre, I'm all for it. In fact, partly I think maybe this should only be the future of this genre. Is smartly written and directed and done by a woman. I think that's the only way to continue these types of films. If not, I think in the world we're in right now, maybe we can retire the genre. Outside of that, I don't know. I thought this thing was really good. I'm done babbling. Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with you. This was a pleasant surprise. I wasn't really into it as for my stated reasons, but then somebody else I knew had watched it previously, and they said it was really, really good. And, you know, they had kind of spoiled it a little bit for me that the rape took place off camera, so I was like, all right, so we'll give this thing a shot. We'll watch it. And I think it is, like you said, it's a rousing success. The way it's shot, and even just her revenge in and of itself, and her hunting of the men or whatever. I mean, a lot of the films, their revenge is very complicated. And it's usually pretty torturous, and it kind of devolves further into torture porn and that kind of stuff. Yeah. And it's just kind of misery upon misery kind of thing. And this is more kind of like an action kind of thing where it's I don't know, it was exciting to watch those kinds of things. It wasn't kind of like, ugh, this is interminable. It was like, holy shit, let's get this done kind of thing. So but I'm with you. I honestly don't think this genre necessarily has any place anymore. I don't think we really need it. I mean, I say that because we'll get another one probably in a few years, and you know, they will continue to get made. But yeah, I would be completely fine if this was a capper to the genre. Like, this is kind of like the exclamation point of, I don't know if really how much more is there to say, or how many more ways you need to do this. I mean, I think this is probably the best possible way you could have done it. And it's very successful. So I think we could safely say that we don't need another rape revenge film, and this is your go-to example. Yeah.
No, I think this is the appropriate cap. This is the coda. This should be the end. I think it would be fine to be the end. Now, maybe there's another woman who has a different voice and a different interpretation and a different message. Fine. But I think the I Spin in Your Grave series, because even with the remakes, Matt, they made 3 of them.
Did they?
Yeah.
I didn't even know. I did not realize that. Okay.
I think we're all set. And then 2, the revenge portion of it, when she kills these guys, it's not as graphic and as sexual as it is in the other films. I guess as a way to try and balance out the scales is what they try and do in those. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's all very Saw-ish, very Hostel-ish, where it's all elaborate and, you know, gross, and, you know, come on, people, have some empathy for your fellow man. It's disgusting. All around. It's disgusting.
But yeah, so I am though eager to see what Coralie Farge comes up with next. I think this was her first film as well. So if she continues to make horror films or does something else, I don't know. I think there's a lot of style in this thing. I think the feminism label here is well earned, and it's got an interesting point of view. And I'm glad we checked it out. I think I'm going to give this an A-. I really think it's that good.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to give it a B+. It is really a really good film. Still, I don't know how many times I'm going to be popping Revenge. Although I could be saying that, you know, who knows? I own Martyrs. That's not something I thought I'd be watching more than once, but I own it. So there you go.
There you are. Then if the family's over for Thanksgiving, you're trying to figure out what to watch after the meal. You can, this is, and you know, guys, just as a complete aside, I watched the trailer for this thing. There's a little bit of talking in the beginning, but it was all English. I was not expecting as much French as I got in this. So is this a part of another kickoff of a new French horror, new wave thing? Oh, I'd be on board for that.
Yeah, we'll see.
We shall see. If you had a chance to see Revenge, shoot us an email. I'd love to hear your thoughts. feedback@thefirstrun.com. All right, Matt. Let's go ahead then and play a clip for a film that didn't quite make the cut for me for being one of the best movies we've seen so far.
Harry! Goodness. To what do Bastian and I owe the pleasure? Well, we were all just talking, and we realized we haven't had a game night in ages, just the 7 of us.
So, I thought you were going to your brother's house. I never said that.
Come on, Gare Bear, live a little. It's the weekend.
We were just saying how you were always better at games than Debbie was.
Well, thank you not to besmirch my ex-wife. That woman is an angel.
Oh, yeah, she was much better at games than you.
I will admit I have eagerly awaited a visit such as this.
Where'd he go?
Do we follow him?
It seems like it.
Ryan, you go first.
I'm scared.
All right, so that is, of course, a clip from Game Night, one of the stronger comedies I think we've seen in a while. A black comedy, a dark comedy.
Yeah.
But still, I thought pretty good. Directed by John Francis Daley and Jonathan Goldstein, who, of course, have been tapped to direct what, Matt?
I don't know.
The new Flash movie.
Oh, okay.
We'll see how that turns out.
Okay. Jesse Plemons is a delight in that film. And I think we're not going out on a limb just of the comedies that this thing has gone up against. This is by far and away the best comedy of the year. By far. So if you guys want to go see a comedy, this is the one.
Yeah. And it is available right now streaming. I don't know if it's available on Blu-ray DVD. I think it might be.
I think it is.
But I know you can definitely rent it or buy it online for sure. But
Sure.
still, not quite good enough for me, Matt. Didn't crack my top 5.
So, Chris, let me ask you this before we get started. Going back and looking at the movies we've seen this year, I'm not really super impressed with 2018 so far.
No,
really not. I was a little disappointed.
I'm inclined to agree with you. I think there have been a couple really interesting films, but nothing has really knocked me on my butt yet. Nothing.
Nope. That's 100% true. Maybe it'll be a really strong second half of the year. We'll see.
We'll have to see. Maybe Ant-Man versus the Wasp will be like the best film of the year.
I don't know about that, but maybe the best Marvel film of the year. We'll see.
We'll see. I've already seen it. We'll talk about that next
week.
week.
I've already seen it too.
Oh.
Oh, look at you.
All right. Matt, why don't you go ahead? Why don't you start things off? I gave you the ultimate number 1 last week. I'll take it this week. What's number 5 for you?
So number 5 for me is small little kind of unexpected film out of nowhere that I had a hell of a lot of fun with. Upgrade. Basically the story of a paraplegic who gets an AI installed in his body to help him move. He learns that it can take over his body and basically turns him into a killing machine that he uses to exact bloody revenge on the people who paralyzed him and killed his wife. It is a fun little B film. You know, if you're into that kind of exploitation stuff, it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, Upgrade's a good pick. Didn't quite make the cut for me. Probably 6 or 7. But yeah, I think that's a good pick. My number 5 then is Hereditary, the recent horror film we saw that is 1 part family drama, 1 part cult, 1 part demon possession. I don't know. There's a lot going on in this film, and it's the family drama that is done so exceptionally well that helps ratchet up the horror. It's one of the creepiest things I've seen in a long time. No jump scares, just straightforward, dear God, what is happening? It slows down maybe for a little bit in the middle, but that's because we're just lulling you. We're just kind of going to say, you know, worry, everything's fine, little creepy things here and there. And then for the last 20 plus minutes, it's going to be badass insane. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. I really liked Hereditary, and it's my number 5.
It's my number 4. I would counter there are a few jump scares, but definitely the horror movie of the year so far. You know, we seem to get one really good one every year, and I think this is probably going to be it. Really a slow burn of a horror film, really disturbing, just kind of all of its applications as far as kind of the breakdown of the family unit and just some really truly shocking stuff in it. So not an easy sit, but if you're a horror fan, I think you owe it to yourself to watch it. Even if you're not, check it out. You might like it.
There you go. My number 4, I think it had like a D though for the cinema score, isn't that right? Like people didn't.
Yeah, but what do people know? I mean, they're the same people that are getting us an Equalizer too and keep Antoine Fuqua making movies. So let's proceed.
Don't get me started on that Lowe's Home Depot fight scene at the end. God,
yeah.
Just go in the archives and listen to that Equalizer show. Man, that thing made me angry. My number 4 then is the latest film from Armando Iannucci. You may know him from In the Cut, also Veep. He did The Death of Stalin, which basically it's a political satire that relays the events of what happened in the Soviet Union after Stalin died. And what's crazy about it is that basically all the stuff in that film actually happened. And how he was able to juxtapose the comedy with really just the horror of the Soviet Union at that time and how terrifying it was to be there. It's just, he is the perfect guy to deliver the black comedy that is The Death of Stalin, with some fantastic performances by Steve Buscemi, Patty Considine, Jason Isaacs, and really Michael Palin, who I just love seeing on screen at all times. So, but it's an unusual comedy. I thought it was hilarious. Some people might not, because some of the subject matter is rather heavy at times. I mean, you don't think you're going to laugh when you've seen people getting shot in the head because they got to clean up the witnesses and stuff. It's just, I don't know. I just really enjoyed it. So Death of Stalin's my number 4.
All right. Good pick. My number 3 is I think the biggest or best sci-fi movie of the year so far. Alex Garland's latest in Annihilation, starring mostly
four.
Number 3.
Number 3. That's right. You're ahead of me. Number 3.
Yeah. Number 3, starring a mostly female cast, Natalie Portman, Tessa Thompson. Also stars Jennifer Jason Leigh and Oscar Isaac. Basically a beautiful, just surreal film about this team of scientists who go into this alien landscape where an interstellar object has fallen and is changing everything around it, mutating animals, combining DNA. A really strange, kind of surreal look at kind of life sciences and really kind of a mind-boggler of an ending as far as it goes. This is actually based on a book by Jeff Vandermeer, who's a good author if you haven't read him before, but it's actually a 3-book series. I don't know if this thing did well enough to where we're going to get any more out of that, but definitely worth a watch. I think it's probably the strongest sci-fi movie of the year so far.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting pick. I don't know if I have any feelings about it. My number 3 is Thoroughbreds. First-time writer-director Corey Finley. I guess it was originally supposed to be a play that got optioned to make a film instead. If you're not familiar, Olivia Cooke and Anya Taylor-Joy starred as 2 women in the upper class area of Connecticut. They're both in high school, and one of the young women is a little off, and the other one has a stepfather who she cannot stand. So the 2 young ladies decide to plot to kill him. It's the last film starring Anton Yelchin, and it is, again, another kind of dark comedy, which seems to be a theme, I guess, this year. But it is, I don't know what it was about this film, Matt. Maybe you can help me out. But I was just enraptured from this thing from start to finish. Just the dialogue, the performances, everything about it is just, it is. It's like, well, I guess that's the best description. It's like watching a stage play. And it's exceptionally well done. And I don't know, I just absolutely loved it. So it's my number 3.
Mm-hmm. It's a film that's really right in your wheelhouse.
Yeah, it is. It's
who,
like Stoker, which I love that a lot of people haven't seen. It's kind of got that vibe to it. So yeah, that's a great way to put it. Yeah.
All right. So my number 2, maybe a bit of a surprise. You Were Never Really Here. I didn't really know what to expect from this film, but it stars Joaquin Phoenix as a traumatized veteran who's unafraid of violence, and he tracks down missing girls for a living. When his latest job spins out of control, he kind of rescues the girl he's trying to go after, and it's just basically one long, brutal take of violence from there out. Joaquin Phoenix gives a very quiet, powerful performance, and it is just a lean, dirty little film, and I really had a good time watching it. I don't know why. I don't know what that says about me, but I did enjoy this film quite a bit.
I agree. It's my number 2 as well. By Lynn Ramsey. She also did Ratcatcher. I think the first thing I ever saw of hers was We Need to Talk About Kevin. But still, I really enjoyed this as well. It is a dark, dark film, unrelenting and unapologetic in its violence, But even I shouldn't say unrelenting because it's not like consistent. But when it hits you like a sledgehammer.
Right.
And I think why it's so successful is that, as you said, Joaquin Phoenix gives himself over to this role completely as this PTSD vet, just trying to get through his life, pay the bills, and as you said, a man that is not uncomfortable with violence finds his calling in rescuing these young women. And it's just kind of this unrelenting film, and I enjoyed it as well. It's my number 2 as well.
Okay, so I think I might be able to guess what Chris's number 1 is, but I'm gonna go with what my number 1 is. It's really it's just the biggest film of the year so far. It's Avengers: Infinity War. Made $2 billion. It's the culmination of 10 years of work of kind of putting something that's never really been done before onto the screen. Overall, I think it's very successful. It's a very, very enjoyable ride. It is huge, just to kind of pull everything together.
Yeah.
So it loses a lot of some of the subtlety and nuance that you get from as much as you can get in a comic book movie. But it really is, as a comic book geek, it is just so much fun to kind of watch those kind of big crossover events that we used to get growing up, like Secret Wars, like Infinity Gauntlet, kind of be put up to life and put on the screen so successfully. And you to really be that invested in it that it's going to be a long, long wait to next year.
No, it certainly is. I think it's an interesting pick. No. But number 1 then clearly is Alex Garland's Annihilation.
Mm-hmm.
One of the smartest science fiction films in recent memory for me. I probably outside of Ex Machina, right?
Yeah.
And Blade Runner 2049.
Arrival.
Right. Yeah, sure. Arrival. Thank you. Very good. So, but Natalie Portman, of course, plays the young woman, the cellular biology professor who's going into, the Shimmer, right? To find out what happened to her husband and all the horror and beauty that happens to them while they are there. This is one of the more terrifying scenes in a film that I can remember of the past 5 years. The encounter with that evolved bear.
Yeah.
That thing freaked me out. But in the end of it may be a little heady for me. Not that I couldn't grasp it, just maybe a little too much.
Right.
But still, what Garland is able to pull off with this thing, with the visuals and the concepts, and then the performances by the lead, and to have basically an all-women team head up this film as well. There's just a lot of fascinating, interesting things in this film, and it's a film that I'm desperate to watch again. I want to get the 4K, which is of course only currently available at Best Buy, but I don't know. I feel like I need to wait until it's available someplace else. I don't like that whole exclusive thing. But still, yeah, Annihilation is my number 1. It's my favorite film of the year so far.
Very good.
Any honorable mentions?
Yeah, Won't You Be My Neighbor? Good little documentary. I think it's our first only 2 A's of the year as I was looking back at the report card, but I don't know if I would put it as, I don't know. I don't think it has staying power as far as that goes. Incredibles 2, Death of Stalin. I enjoyed the Isle of Dogs quite a bit. I think it's a very quirky little Wes Anderson movie. Game Night, as you said, and A Quiet Place. It's also a good, solid kind of action, horror, science fiction film.
Yeah, I agree. I had A Quiet Place. I had Isle of Dogs. I had Game Night, Tully, maybe even. Upgrade, Won't You Be My Neighbor, and then finally Revenge.
Yeah, okay.
Those were the honorable mentions that I had.
So Avengers didn't even make an honorable mention.
I think that's sure. Like Incredibles 2, they're fine. Honorable mentions, sure. I'll make them honorable mentions. Just when I was thinking about the stuff that I was like, wow. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like and maybe we'll talk about this next week with Ant-Man and Ant-Man and the Wasp. That's my little dark DC coming at me. Let's just save it for next week.
All right.
Speaking of which, Matt, next week, all right,
yes,
it is going to be Ant-Man and the Wasp, not versus, and.
Right, yes.
So talk about that. What else should we do? I'm going to try and see the first Purge this week. I don't know if that's going to work out. But you know what we have to do? I don't know if you want to commit to it right now.
What?
Wolf Cop 2.
Ooh, yeah, let's pocket that.
Okay.
I think there's something else out that I think we are compelled to watch. Hold on. I'll make everybody wait.
Well, Sorry to Bother You isn't playing around here yet, which is a big one for me, but it's not available yet.
Okay.
Is there something else you wanted to do?
No, I thought there was. I could have swore there was. Something that we had to do because of the first. Oh, Sorry to Bother You. That's not out around you yet?
No, it's not here.
Okay. All right, then I guess, yeah, we could do the first Purge. Sure, why not?
That, all right. Or we'll do, all right, well, we got to do Wolf Cop at some point. We owe it
Sure.
to our buddies over at the Wolf Cop universe.
We do. The Wolf Cop, yes.
Shoot us an email, feedback@thefirstrun.com. What were your 5 favorite films of the year so far? Check us out at Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. Do a search for The First Run. Scroll, and you will find us. I got a big announcement again for next week for the second half of the year. Oh, it's going to be really special. I'm really excited about that. I'm not even going to tell Matt. It's going to be a big surprise.
Wow, it's going to be a big surprise to me too, huh?
And that's going to be it. That'll be the big show this week. And of course, always go to Apple Podcasts, Matt, and go ahead, not just you, Matt, but anybody. Go ahead and review the show. 4 stars, 3.5, 4 stars or better. But any review, I will, of course, read on the air. So that's it. I want to take an extended break. We'll see you all soon.
Come on, non chiaro male, nobody, check out, you got anything.